left. On your left.
Here's a good idea. And just let it rattle. And then you have that rattle in the whole rest of the...
So before we get into the race, I just want to go over how I'm feeling, my bike setup, and my nutrition that I carry with me on the bike. So the Harry 100 is held 1 week after the El Chupacabra Grando. Like most of the entrants in this race, I only had 1 week of recovery, but I was feeling pretty good on race day. I took a slow week on training. I'm still suffering cold symptoms that I've had for about 2 weeks now. So although I've been feeling like a turd in the head, my energy is really good. Have you ever watched the episode of 2.5 Men when Alan gets into cycling to try to steal a woman away from Charlie, and he looks pro and tacky at the same time? Well, this is me. I am fully equipped here. I am ready. I'm wearing arm warmers because it was a chilly morning and I knew by afternoon it would be warming up. I got my 2 GoPro cameras. Unfortunately, one of them I forgot to put my SD card back in. For fuel, between Cliff Bars, Fig Bars, Honey Stingers, and gels, I'm carrying about 888 calories, 163 grams of carbs. For hydration, I'm carrying 2 water bottles and 1 Pedialyte bottle. And for my wheel setup, I'm running 38 PCI on 33 Gravel King SKs. These tires are awesome. I've been running them for about 6 or 7 months now and haven't experienced one flat yet. So I'm really confident about this setup and ready to go as hard as I can. So the course is a really fun course. I would say it's about 85% gravel, 15% pavement, with a great mix of hills and flatlands. Very pretty course with a few creek crossings. From about 10 miles from the finish is the steepest point, about 15% grade, and then flattens out all the way to the rest of the finish. The start seemed to begin very casual pace. Of course, all the heavy hitters are out front, but it didn't look like anybody was on full-on gas. The course begins on a pretty gradual climb for about a mile. Perhaps from a lack of warm-up, I'm not really feeling the pace. Back it off a bit, realizing I have about 6 miles to go. But it didn't take long for me to get into familiar territory, all by myself.
Poor little guy. Probably kept up with you for a mile or so.
I'm not too worried at this point. As a mid-packer, usually the law of averages seem to even out. I end up passing for those who are supposed to be passing. Then I see myself doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. I catch up to Erin, Betts, and Carrie Backs, who I would think should be up in the front of the pack. So at this point, I finally warmed up, getting into a race pace. And one of my biggest mistakes I made when I pre-rode this course is not ride it at a race pace. The gravel is completely different at race pace, so everything felt way more rough and loose and really just unfamiliar. So at this point, there are gaps everywhere. I've made it several miles into this race before I'm feeling like I'm no longer in contention. Not for the win, just for a good finish. That's Erin and Betts telling Judd Reams to hop on the train, but a good group of riders formed, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
the race is back on. This group just keeps getting bigger. Between mile 10, 11, you were picking up a net triplet. So I'm thinking this group size is going to stick together for a while. But it seemed to break up after about 15 miles. I think those that broke from the group got dropped because I don't remember anybody on the attack here. I'm sorry, but I don't remember this rider's name, but he wanted to tell me a joke, but the GoPro wouldn't pick it up. That's JR taking this pull on a single speed. So we're about 22 miles in at this point, and I'm really starting to feel good. My legs are warm, and all I've been doing is just sucking on the back of somebody's wheel. We make the right turn on Gin Lane, and it's foresty. The scenery's awesome, and I'm feeling good, so I decided I'm no longer going to be a douche, and I'm going to take the pull. JR is so strong on his climbs, He's like a Sherpa on methamphetamines. So he gaps the group a little bit. Annette's like, hey, let's catch this guy. And as a mid-packer, I'm all for a race within the race. So we reeled him back in, and at this point, I think it's just the three of us as we gap the other group. When we get to the corner of Johnson Cemetery and H, we run into these crazy fans. When we make the left on Clickenbeard, the three of us are riding really well together. JR on a single speed kept playing slinky with us a little bit, using his momentum on the downhills to try to get the uphills. So JR starts kind of doing his own thing while Annette and I start exchanging pulls. So it sort of feels like we are the second or maybe third group on the road. You know, I have no idea how large that first group is. And then maybe there's people who got, blown off from the front group. So again, I'm really feeling good on the bike. I'm just feeling better for each mile. I'm very comfortable until I make the left-hand turn onto Shelton Road. Now, don't get me wrong, the crash hurt a lot, but what hurt the most is that I did not get it on video. I ended up ripping my bibs. I have a nasty raspberry on my thigh and just bruised up my femur pretty good. I retell this story to my non-cycling friends. I'm going to tell it like this. So everyone that saw this happen was nice enough to stop and check on me. But I just told them to, hey, go on, it's a race. So they all left. I did debate for about 5 seconds of whether I was going to continue or not. But I got on my feet and I decided, well, if I can get on my feet, I can probably ride a bike. And actually, it felt better to ride a bike than stand there. So I hopped on. I really wanted to catch the group that I was riding with. So I bombed down the hill, crossed the creeks, actually caught them. I wasn't too surprised that I caught them because I did hear them talking about being careful going down the hill and crossing the creeks, that it could be a bit sketchy. So I knew if I full send it, I would end up catching them. So I'm so pumped that I'm back with this group because we're riding really well together. And then at some point, JR just totally drops us on a single speed. So we get to the aid station. When I got off my bike, I started to realize how much pain I was in. I was in more pain standing there than actually riding the bike. So I was able to get some Tylenol from the first aid kit that they had there. Got some new fuel for my drop bag, filled up my water bottles. Now I thought we were all gonna get back and ride together, but the next thing I knew, everybody was gone. So I hopped on my bike, I chased after Annette. So from here on out, it was just Annette and I, kind of going through the thought process of I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to catch anybody. Kind of just don't hope anybody would catch us. Right here, there was a dog on the road, so I was on full gas. I take a look back and I see the dog nipping at Annette's heels. Here's a picture of it. And here's us after the race having a good laugh about it. We get on the Katy Trail. I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to catch anybody or not. We do end up catching this guy who explained that he was having tire issues, I believe. He actually ended up passing us back again. I think he ran into more mechanical issues. So we're on about mile 80 on Bush Laning Road, and I'm just looking far ahead, looking behind me, see if there's any motivation to really continue a race pace. We're pedaling pretty hard here. So we're pedaling towards Hartsburg. It's pretty flat here, and I know ahead that we got the steepest climb coming up. I feel like I barely made it through that climb. I can feel my legs just on the verge of cramping. But we made it, we recovered. Now we only got about 10 miles to go. Almost all downhill from this point into flats. We get onto River Road where you can see pretty far ahead. And I'm looking for more motivation. Is there anybody we can catch? And there's nobody in sight. Same thing, no worries behind us. It wasn't really discussed, but I think we just both put it into cruise control and just tried to enjoy the rest of the ride to the finish. So my finish time was 5 hours and 39 minutes. I predicted I was going to be at least over 6 hours, so that's awesome. Finished place, 6th place in my age group. I'm not sure what the overall is. It's still hard, lots of calculations to do to figure that out, so I'm not going to bother. And then my average speed is 17.1 miles per hour, which is insane for me for that distance. You know, I think usually in a ride like this, I would say 15 miles per hour is my tops. So no excuses from crashing. Like, I was on the bike, I actually felt not too bad. It was all the little bumps that really bothered me the most. Otherwise, pedaling was not a too problem at all. And like I mentioned before, it only hurts most when I'm off the bike. Standing or walking was pretty painful on the leg. But otherwise, it was a great event. So much better than last year. Last year it was pouring rain, so it's really hard to compare apples to apples on results. And the course was awesome. I really enjoyed the new sections this year. But the best of all, at Cooper's Landing, the race promoters had an open tab for all the participation trophies you can drink. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Definitely put this race on your schedule for next year.
How's your leg?
It's all right.
Is it really?
It hurts to walk, actually, more than ride.
Are you serious? Yeah, good job finishing, man. That's tough.
All like the little bumps, like you hit like bump, 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 like that was hurting a lot. But otherwise, just pedaling was fine.
So, do you think it's in anything internal, or do you think it's
just bruised? I think probably, yeah, from the raspberry, the cuts and stuff, and then like maybe a bruise the bone there.
Well, watch it. It may be sore the next couple days.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. If you didn't keep going.
Now it's like I gotta, because I can sit there and feel like pain sitting. I'm like, I gotta get out.
Yep.
If I can get on my feet, I should be able to pedal.